The following video features stunts performed either by professionals or under the supervision of professionals. Accordingly, I, June the King, insist that no one attempt to recreate or reenact any stunts or activity performed in this video. From the late 90s to the early 2000s, everyone knew the name Bam Margera. Before the age of 18, Bam was already a professional skateboarder and later became the most popular male star in America measured by Q-score. At one point, he even sold more skateboards than Tony Hawk. He amplified every aspect of culture he touched, whether it was games or his own film footage that ended up being half of the first season of Jackass. He was such a success that, unlike many of the Jackass crew, MTV gave him his own spin-off show known as Viva La Bam. While his friends were in rehab, he was making millions doing whatever he wanted. But as people lost interest and his addictions to various substances started to replace the grand feeling of having an audience, his addiction only worsened. From the 2010s and on, Bam had always been teetering on chaos, hardly quelled by his family that could not control this collapsing star that they were previously warmed by. This was then exacerbated by the most chaotic Jackass members getting clean, where they are now touring and symbols of defeating addictions, and even starred in the newest Jackass movie absent of a fired Bam Margera. In contrast, Bam, affected by psychosis, was trying to reach Neil deGrasse Tyson to explain black holes to him. There is an irony in how he claims to understand the very thing he's become, as he's dragging his family and partners down with him due to his constant rest fueled by his worsening addiction.
I don't want to see you, talk to you, or anything you.
It's gotten to the point where a recent arrest in 2023 has friends hoping he will land in jail to finally get clean, and overall sparked a drastic reinterest in Bam.
Johnny Knoxville, get into a ring with me without boxing gloves on, because you know I'm gonna f you up.
But what many reporting on the matter are lacking are the warning signs that had always been present. These can be traced back to all the way when he got his very first skateboard. At just 10 years old at his local skate park, his talent with the board caught the eyes of many, but there was one kid that was not even a year older than him that showed similar talent, known as Brother Novak. The two quickly became best friends and rivals, as they attended skating competitions where the pair constantly outperformed each other. But little did onlookers know, Bam was also host to another talent that some sourced to a disorder. His diagnosis with ADD and his difficulty paying attention in school worked to his benefit, as he developed a keen eye for knowing how to keep interest. Because growing up, Bam's father Phil, at Bam's request, would take him to skate parks and the like to practice.
Make it look bigger. Get that right there.
It looks big enough, believe me.
And whether there or during competitions, recorded him where they would later review the footage. Phil was also a coach for a baseball team, and his house was the place to be. He was the fun dad children sought. This, combined with Bam being talented at his craft, meant he saw little issue making friends, and invited up to 30 to view these films, though those particularly uninterested in skating often left. But as Bam got older and more reckless, he took hold of the camera and began intersplicing footage of him and his friends harassing one another or being silly on camera. And this new style successfully entertained everyone. And because he was also free of chores and equally any responsibility, he had all the time in the world to improve his craft. At just 13 years old, he already had his first sponsor, a local skate shop known as Fairman's, where the payment came in the form of 2 skate decks a month and sometimes wheels. This was a step up, but comparative to travel costs to locations such as Prague, it was hardly self-sustaining. To that, the funding came from selling cookies in front of the courthouse to help pay for Bam's trip and would travel alone via airplane. This changed at the age of 16, where Bam was being harped on by a school counselor to focus on his education, and tried to convince Bam that skating was a fad. After all, the industry had seen a major decline in the past years. But at this point, Bam knew best, and now instead of just skipping school, which was allowed by his parents, he dropped out entirely and got sponsored by Nike, where he received life-changing money via a contract that guaranteed $5,000 a month to wear their shoes. Shoes that were so terribly designed for skating that he often wore competing brands with a Nike sticker glued on. There was likely a breach of contract somewhere along the line, but Bam had a specific talent of pushing boundaries just as far as they would benefit him. By this point, he was already well acquainted with various professional skateboarders who were often much older than Bam. The Margera family, unilaterally working towards Bam's skating career, was paying off massively, and other families criticizing the Margeras for raising Bam without discipline and allowing him to form his own were eating their words. As for his friend, Brother Novak, he was also seeing success. He was the first skater to be endorsed by Gatorade and was touring with none other than Tony Hawk. But at 17, Novak, experimenting with substances, got addicted to H, where after consistent use got kicked from the team to attend his first rehab at the same age. This was to be the first of many rehabs to come. As for Bam, when he heard of Novak's addiction, Bam didn't even know what H was. In fact, even though Bam toured with much older skaters who often drank, Bam himself was opposed to even consuming alcohol, and looked down on those that did. Besides, Bam didn't need alcohol to be chaotic because he was the embodiment of it, as demonstrated by the videos he would record with his friends like Ryan Dunn, who showed similar recklessness.
Ryan Dunn would pull up in some new haggard hunk of shit car that he got because he just wrecked his last one. You know, he was getting in accidents like it was no fucking tomorrow.
As for videos with sponsorships, those often boiled down to limited chaos mixed in with skating, like with Toy Machine, a habit that had evolved from his skating video making days for Fairmans just a few years prior. Now something bigger was in the works. Bam knew he was onto something when his videos were entertaining his uncles that had little interest in the sport. And around the mid-90s, Bam was already a big success. He bought his parents a new car and a house with the money he was earning. Also, a part of that, Bam was taking note of how he was out-earning adults with his craft, citing how unique in a position he was to be in, out-earning even his girlfriend's parents. As in 1999, Bam compiled the previous years of chaos selectively. This compilation of stunts and skating was to be known as CKY, which is also the name of Jess Margera's, Bam's older brother's, band. A fitting name considering the full name of the band is Camp Kill Yourself. The video itself was released in 1999 under Landspeed CKY. Landspeed is a skating company that is owned by Tom Yeto and distributed the VHS tapes to skating shops throughout the US. Landspeed was on the brink of collapse, which is also what prompted Bam to make the video. And without any advertisement at all and entirely through word of mouth, CKY gained widespread success, selling nearly 1 million copies throughout the entirety of its run. Boiling the video down to skating and sometimes scripted stunts would be a disservice to it. It was Bam's selection music, strange cuts, and experimental edits that translated Bam's passion for his work as much as it promoted Bam's culture and raw lifestyle. Financially, it showed that there was a much older audience that wanted these types of videos, because most skating videos at the time were marketed and presented in a safe way as to appeal to parents that would buy them for their children. CKY wasn't the only one challenging and changing this culture. There was also Big Brother, not the television series, but an unrelated magazine that far predates it. Big Brother was a magazine that started in the 80s and gained prominence in the 90s as a counter to the safe image of skating and was doing well to make a name for itself. That besides its raunchy nature, it had an artistic appeal, where throughout the inherent style of Anything Goes, it allowed the magazine a broad range of experimental covers and articles. And in the mid-90s, they went on tour, which was several years prior to CKY's release, and released their series of VHS tapes, which harnessed both the culture of skating, but significantly more important was the chaotic lifestyle of skaters, in the same way Bam showcased it through his videos. The first of the Big Brother series was shit, then came number 2. Afterwards was Boob, and then in 2001 was Crap. The importance of the first 3 were the inclusions of some similar faces like Chris Pontius, local legend Wee Man, Clown School graduate Stephen Gilchrist Glover, better known as Steve-O. And number 2, there was a particular segment involving the testing of self-defense equipment that was tested by PJ Clapp, better known by stage name Johnny Knoxville. To get to this moment, we have to rewind a little. Knoxville, moving to California, had the dream of becoming an actor, but did not have the talent to do so. And with his girlfriend now pregnant, he knew he had to step things up. He was already writing for magazines and was going to write for Big Brother, but didn't skate, though he understood the culture, which is where he pitched the idea of writing an article about testing self-defense equipment to the editor of Big Brother, Jeff Tremaine. But Jeff didn't just want Knoxville to write it, he also wanted to film it, which is where this video came into play and made its appearance in number 2. Not often shown because of the drastic act is Knoxville shooting his chest with a .38, as he was testing a bulletproof vest that was also the cheapest vest he could find, meaning that the buffer between fame and death for Knoxville was $340. Number 2 released in 1998, Landspeed CKY released in 1999. Then in 2000, CKY2K released to widespread success. Notice how there is no addition of land speed in the title because this was distributed by a different company, because for CKY1, though it was successful, land speed didn't pay Bam a cent and told him it didn't make money. That's when Bam sued and found they lied and actually made $90,000. This $90,000 is quite a large figure, but nothing compared to the amount Bam was going to make in just the year 2000. A great transition point, not just for the human race, but also for the evolution of everything involving skating and alternative culture. In May 2000, in Finland, on the way to a skating contest, Bam on a plane read an article on a Finnish gothic rock band known as Him. And then, at the Finnish hotel, he saw them on television, which then inspired him to purchase their CD, where he became a massive fan of the music, but more importantly their style and their heartogram, which he slowly began to adopt. Then, in Tampa Pro 2000, not only did Steve-O perform during an intermission, Bam ranked in the top 10 street skaters. Also there was famous skater Tony Hawk, that Bam met for the first time and began not only going on tour with, but was also included in his video game as a playable character. Interestingly enough, this video of Tampa Pro 2000 was a 411BM, or 411 video magazine, that Bam was with alongside Element, and they were both using the same distribution company. And this video also promoted CKY2K. Where the first one didn't even have promotion and did insanely well, CKY2K had essentially the edgier section of the skating industry backing it. And what an excellent decision that was, because it didn't take long for this vastly superior CKY sequel to sell over 1 million copies. And to focus more on CKY2K, out of filming his father at work or burning down a rental car, which he got away with, it's clear which videos made the final cut.
Phil thought I was in deep shit when I smashed the window driving through a soccer goal. But the next day when it was time to take the rental car back, Ray Jan thought it would be funny to try to set the AM radio on fire. Well, the whole car blew the fuck up 40 seconds from my house, and the only thing I had to pay was $9 for extra insurance.
But that's just the deception of Bam at play. While driving home, a random car caught on fire and they recorded the footage. Then they actually rented a similar looking car, but not the same make or model, as even by the footage shown, the front of the car that is on fire is squared while the one they rented is smooth. To ham it up, they damaged the rental a bit, returned it, then inserted that footage. And in actuality, that was a lot of the CKY series. The quote-unquote strangers he was harassing were played by family members.
I'm sorry.
Can't you see fucking cars drive up and down the fucking street?
He's got ADD, don't even listen.
Now how about this dummy thrown from a bridge onto a truck? That truck looks suspiciously similar to his friend's truck. This tells a lot about Bam. Because sure, there were scripted and planned events, that's existence later detracted from the real stunts and what everyone believed Bam to be. But it also shows that Bam was not the reckless stuntman teenager his persona made him out to be. That's just what got sales. In actuality, he was an entertainer, and it was a character he was playing. He wasn't just being reckless because it was fun, he was planning and doing everything in a way to benefit him and work towards a goal of even larger scale promotion. This would only become a problem when others treated him as his character. Through these decisions, it didn't take long for CKY2K to land in the hands of Jeff Tremaine. After all, according to Bam, CKY2K outsold Big Brother tremendously. That and several years prior, the Big Brother tour actually met Bam in Philly and did an article on him before he really blew up.
We even met Bam Margera on that trip in Philadelphia.
There's this little 13-year-old kid there with his dad, and that was the first time he was in Big Brother.
We had no idea he would become such a big part of our future.
As where Big Brother was never really a profitable venture because their nature kept driving away advertisers, the magazine gained notoriety for what it achieved in spite of its monetary failure. There was something bigger here that not everyone saw, especially because of the contrasting nature of profitability from unmonetizable content. That's why there was little confidence in Jeff Tremaine's newest idea. He wanted to leave out the skating and focus on the stunts, and make it into a television series. To host it, he would call up not the most ambitious stuntman like Steve-O, but the most charismatic and funny member of the Big Brother crew, being Johnny Knoxville. Additionally, Bam's success, made ever more noticeable due to his lack of resources, had Jeff Tremaine invite him to California, where the three brainstormed what we now know as Jackass. The unaired pilot was half Big Brother footage and half CKY footage. Two videos filmed in opposite areas of the United States, combined and pitched by Spike Jonze, who is a childhood friend of Jeff Tremaine, and the only one that had a significant enough name in the TV industry to pitch such a project. It was initially shown to HBO, where it was rejected and announced. It likely didn't help that in the on-air pilot, Knxoville did a stunt where he dressed as a handcuffed inmate on the run and approached a hardware store employee to purchase a hacksaw. The police were then called, and the first officer to show up forgot to put their car in park and hit a streetlight. Still, this initial rejection from HBO made the feeling that much better when it was presented to MTV, where they gave the opposite reaction. Bam's part was pretty much done. The first season was to largely include footage from the CKY series. However, on Jeff's side, he assembled the Big Brother team of Steve-O, Wee Man, Chris Pontius, and many more.
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass.
The introduction of Johnny Knoxville, the song Corona by the Minutemen that went along with it, the creative namings of the stunts the crews were doing, and the unprofessionalism of it all, within just 2 weeks of the official airing of the pilot, meant that Jackass was the highest rated show MTV ever had outside the VMAs. Overnight, this crew of chaotic individuals that some actions were borderline criminal were now stars. But they were hardly that in the traditional sense. Steve-O for the entirety of the first season got paid $1,500 and was a homeless drug addict. When he got approached by fans, he'd ask if he could sleep at their place. With this rate, the profit margin for the television show was massive. Bam, however, being a larger contributor and also being the most established, got $4,000 to $5,000 per episode. This was pennies compared to the millions of dollars he got from CKY2K, and the money he was making from his inclusion in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. Bam, at his financial peak, was buying cars, houses, and now beer. Albeit he was drinking in moderation, but was starting to embrace an earned celebrity lifestyle. He was no longer just reaching the skater group he had always been respected by and found it easy to make friends in. He was now reaching everyone his age. Former classmates from high school were approaching him to invite him to parties. All the popular girls wanted to be with him. He was reaching new levels of acceptance that was bound to go even higher when an expected second season of Jackass was ordered and then delivered in 2001. Now dry of CKY footage, the Big Brother group and the CKY group met for the first time en masse and together collaborated on the show. There was a new intensity when getting all these performers in one location, because previously, when in their own niches, they were top dog, and always known for their crazy stunts. Well, that was the normal here, and their attempts to prove themselves only helped make even crazier and more captivating content. The developing issue was that they were not just inspiring each other. Adults, and more importantly children, were replicating stunts or developing new ones to get attention. But all they got was hospitalized. A senator that was known for being hard on television was proudly campaigning against Jackass. And though there was never a major lawsuit, MTV was getting scared, so they were now involving an OSHA representative to help approve footage. By season 3, the show was still a massive success. But this limitation, and often unapproved, already recorded stunts irked the crew and made Knxoville quit, even though he and the crew were under contract to develop further seasons that would never come out. The contract aside, whatever the stunt performance genre was, it thrived through home video, magazines, a television series, so the next logical step had to be the Jackass movie. Released on October 25, 2002, the Jackass movie was a success that had the benefit of high production stunts. These did not detract from the simpler ones that relied on reactions, like when April Margera, Bam's mom, came home to find a live alligator in her house. It was this stunt and the reaction she gave that greenlit Bam's own television show. With Jackass now discontinued, MTV wanted successors to capture the essence of it, which is equal parts the stunts and the camaraderie which lends its hand well to reality TV. Wild Boys, hosted by Steve-O, who at this point was touring and guaranteeing to be drunk and high at venues to entertain or your money back, and co-hosted by Chris Pontius. This show was leaning more towards stunts as the pair traveled the world and exposed themselves to animals that were often dangerous to be around. Bam's show, named Viva La Bam, leaned more towards camaraderie and his lifestyle non-stop insanity, paired with the harassment of his parents. That part in particular was not unique to Viva La Bam. And as far as footage goes, him beating his father could be found on CKY2K. This was something he also did off camera, and had long become a typical thing within the Margera household, as he was afforded freedoms even above the most lax families. And now he was being paid $40,000 a week to amplify that. His father also already had quit his job for his new one managing Bam's finances, and his mother kept the house tidy. Even after Viva La Bam episodes and other events, it was on her to clean things up. It's also important to note that during this time he was still putting out CKYs, his own movie Haggard that didn't perform too well, but it did include music from the band Him. And in this same year all this was happening, he was now, after getting into contact with the band Him, directing their music videos. He not only directed them, but also made makings of. In these videos, Bam is a much different person. He is dedicated to his role and questioning how to improve the music videos. Whether it's in terms of budget or shots, Bam was heavily present throughout. Also considering his passion for everything he was taking part in, it's amazing he had any time to breathe. But less surprising, he had less time to skate. For Viva La Bam, filming began at 9 AM and wrapped at 10 PM the same day. This was 5 days a week, and in the weekends the footage was sent to California, where it would be aired that weekend. The seasons had 8 episodes, and there was about 2 seasons a year, and the cross-promotion here was crazy. Viva La Bam had heartograms from Him everywhere, but was largely associated with Bam. Bam even sold heartogram skateboards that for several months, maybe even a year straight, sold 20,000 to 40,000 boards a month. That meant it was even outselling Tony Hawk's line of boards. Bam's Q score was also off the charts, and he was statistically the most popular male figure in America. The DVD sales for Viva La Bam were twice as much as Punk'd, and he was getting paid an absurd amount to do whatever he wanted, which was often boiled down to harassing his parents or his uncle Don Vito.
I'm not coming to no more of your parties no more. Look at my great. I don't care to get...
In the first season alone, at his parents' house, he built a castle wall and raided his family reunion with his friends and an elephant.
This whole family is crazy!
It's true.
Now put that on your TV movie. Get the hell out of here.
He built a fire pole in his house. He did an entire episode about not feeding his father Phil for a day, and the best part was that was only a side plot of the episode. With the money from all his projects, for season 2, he made the worst purchase of his entire life. In 2004, Bam purchased a mansion that was dubbed Castle Bam, and the 14 acres of land that came with it. It is difficult to ascribe Bam's downfall to its purchase, but the rooms and the changing environment was always accurate to Bam's current state. A smart move at first, sullied by the publicity of the move, because a benefit was not getting his mailbox knocked over daily by viewers of the first season. But as he and his family would learn, that in comparison was a lightly crossed boundary. The separation of induced chaos for entertainment and a controlled area of living was gone. There was no privacy limited by a personal residence through the fault of Bam, where not only did he have his family and friends live in that house, he invited the entire town to have a housewarming party not even a month after moving in, where Slayer played on the grounds.
Being Slayer's coming, let's invite the whole town of Westchester to come here and see the show.
Wait, you put out flyers?
No.
They don't know where you live, you have a million
Right, and
drive-bys
you'll
like
have
the
the
other
same
house.
problem again. No.
We gotta have a party, man.
No, people be the first one to complain when everybody's bothering you at your house.
Hey, Rob, call up Westchester and tell them to show up. Vito, you bringing a date to the party?
You ain't gonna be ready for no Slayer party.
His house may as well have been a character in the show with just how much personality it had. From the building of skate ramps to the pirate bar or even a demolition derby happening on its yards that was also host to a Civil War reenactment and a casino built onto a tree. Because of these parties, episodes, and the crowd Bam attracted, he was not particularly beloved by the small town he lived in. There was also a large increase of students attending Westchester University as a direct result of Bam's show. The bars, unlike the township, welcomed Bam and his friends openly and served them for free. Even Brother Novak, that Bam took in to help him recover.
Bro, why weren't you at the Rager last night?
What Rager? Maybe because you didn't call me up and invite me.
Watch your mouth, sweetheart.
But Novak, a former alleged millionaire that now held the title junkie, was a severe addict, to the point that he was strategically doing whatever to get his next hit. Bam, in frustration with his never-ending lies, excuses, and theft, often kicked him out, but settled with constant disparagement, where in exchange for room and board, Novak and Viva La Bam and outside of it became a jester for the castle, serving Bam and friends while naked, beverages, or handling Bam's luggage when traveling.
It sucks to be broke because he's giving me $50 for this and I have to do it because I am fucking broke.
That was unnecessary, man.
This was hardly the only relationship to suffer as a result of monetizing his life. It became difficult to know whether Bam's friends were accepting of his derogatory treatment of them for the sake of the money the show brought in, or if they would be around him without it. After season 5 of Viva La Bam, the answer became clear.
We have enough shows, we can keep showing the reruns, and it all stops. And now, when he wakes up, rather than producers pounding on his door, begging him to get up so he could be in the shop because the cameras are ready, the house is quiet.
Yeah.
And it's empty and cold and lonely and desolate. That house, as exciting as it was when we made Viva La Bam, it could be the loneliest place in the world in the mornings after the bar.
That was France, a filmmaker that has assisted Bam in previous projects. Exhausted with non-stop filming and the lifestyle of constant chaos, Bam was burnt out and ended the show with him attending a hymn concert. Over the course of the show, ideas became less inspired. It went from side plots of not feeding Phil that went as large as paying for billboards, wearing shirts that say "Don't feed Phil," ironing burgers onto his clothes, to an episode where the gang was largely drunk in Europe. And it wasn't just burnout. Bam had blurred the lines. Where he once faked some chaos for entertainment, foremost for CQY, that through Viva La Bam transitioned to chaos for his own enjoyment. It wasn't, how will I make this look good for my audience? It was, how can I make this fun for myself? Not many knew it, but this was the true start of Bam's decline. And that's why a more terrifying realization than the lack of friends after the show's ending was that he missed the chaos. Even though by the end of the show, his breakup with his girlfriend Jen Ravel brought on the wrong sort of chaos. And by then, most of the CKY group were as mentally drained as Bam was, and disenchanted of his presence. Even his parents were approaching Bam and asking him to bother them with whatever he had coming to them so they can get on with the rest of their day. The rawness that was captured in CKY and early Viva La Bam was no longer there. Bam after the show could still have fun, but it lacked being paired with the positive reinforcement such as the money for his stunts he did for his show. Now his drinking habits got more serious. When hanging out with the lead singer of him, Bilovallo, several days before a music video shoot, Bam, as he recalls, was introduced to day drinking.
The river will get to the real river, which is the river of Brewskis back at the hotel.
At 10 in the morning, River of Brewskis. Of course. It's Easter.
What do you think about Easter? We're celebrating.
Whenever you decide to start drinking before noon, don't. It always ends up bad. I keep telling myself this, and I never learn.
I've drank more booze than I've ever had in my life.
And now was adapting to the lifestyle of an alcoholic. With no show and stepping into Steve-O and Novak territory, he found that, like them, he could be paid to show up to events where he would drink and have a good time. This is much lighter compared to Novak's Scream Rooms, where he was provided the drugs he requested to make an appearance, or Steve-O's heavy drug use and harmful stunts. But this is unsustainable, and those within Bam's inner circle knew just how bad his insecurities were. And they knew Bam was actually bulimic.
I remember when we did an episode of Viva La Bam, and Bam went and he had some pizza. It was about half a piece of pizza, and he threw it up. And Tony Hawk was there. He said, "Hey, Bam." I looked at Tony, and Tony looked at me. Tony got a worrisome look in his face. And he said, "Hey, Bam, you bulimic?" Just like that. And Bam said, No, I just throw up whenever I eat. And Tony said, "Yeah, man, that's bulimia. You got to get help." Just like that. Bam shrugged it off.
After meals, he would go purge in the bathroom, anything not to end up obese like his father Phil. His parents, that Freedom's only saw him succeed, didn't know how to discipline his failings. And the worst part about it was he was without a goal. In replacement with the camera crew and more work-centered friends, he had alcoholics and drug addicts that similarly sang his praise in the house at all times. This happened because whenever he went on a trip, he would liberally hand out his gay code to any friend that asked, and they would invite their friends, and Bam would walk in seeing each individual as unrecognizable as the last. Little did Bam know he was becoming as unrecognizable. There is a reason why on his IMDb, his credits are greatly reduced from 2006 onwards. Even the massive success of Jackass 2 was brought down with the fact that Bam was on booger sugar, as he called it, throughout the production. But it wasn't just him. Steve-O peed on the red carpet because he figured his life was going to go downhill after this huge success. This was all good promotion, of course, because these stars were still in their prime and such things were expected. Other sides of 2006 were rough for Bam.
Sorry, people, I'm too pissed off to do a show today. Let me just say this. Fuck America and all you fuckers living in it, because I'm sick of people trying to get money off of slipping on a grape in the grocery store and fucking walking on a weak school roof and then breaking their leg when they're trying to break in, and then they get all kinds of fucking money. I think the lawyers and the people are all fucked up. And let me just sum up some shit about something that I'm not allowed to talk about because of the lawyers. Well, guess what, lady? Vito doesn't have any fucking money. He has a red Ford Ranger, and that's it. And the 75 grand that MTV gave him, he's spending on a fucking lawyer to defend himself. And the fact that he's so unhealthy, he's probably going to die this year. I think it's fucked that he has to spend the last few days of his miserable life flying back and forth to Colorado to defend himself about some piece of fucking bullshit fucking case with that you know that you're trying to get money. That's it. That's the only thing. Tom, just play me some old hymn, not that new radio-friendly fucking shit. I'm packing my shit and I'm moving to Kazakhstan just to get away from this fucked up ass country, dude. Fuck.
That was a cut from his radio show, Radio Bam. Bam's uncle, Don Vito, that played himself on Viva La Bam, was known, as were the other people on the show, for being a target of Bam's harassment, and also for slurring his words to the point that the subtitles were hyper-accurate to fit his character.
Your voicemail. Bam, I am Abu Dhabi. I ain't got beer, and then I got to say, I got no luggage. Hey, I'm gonna grab you neck, your jerk off.
Don Vito was also a lifelong alcoholic, turned ex-offender when at a meet and greet he touched an underage girl's upper body that resulted in a lawsuit that stuck him on the ex-offenders registry list, and additionally barred him from going as or playing his character Don Vito. It's also probably why you don't see him in Bam's 2007 show Bam's Unholy Union.
Never invited, never accepted, never got the hot chicks in school.
Now people are begging
Now complete
him.
180.
Yes, grown men are begging him.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we do Unholy Union. Now he's drinking all day. And you can tell when you watch the footage of that show. There are scenes of that show that he does not remember filming. I remember there was a scene that all he had to do, we had the whole scene in the can. And there was, I'm picturing in my head, maybe 15 people standing around, you know, the writers, the cinematographers, the directors, the assistants, everyone standing around. All Bam had to do was deliver one line to Missy, pick her up, and walk off camera. And he could not deliver that line. And it was so frustrating and sad. And if you notice, who wasn't on that show? Ryan Dunn. And it wasn't because he was doing Homewrecker at the time. It was because he did not want to be a part of this world.
This was a one-season show that went from January 2007 to March of the same year, with the show's premise involving his fiancée Missy and their wedding planning that closed on the final episode where the pair got married. Put aside Viva La Bam, Bam's habits of skating was no longer a promotional aspect of his culture. It was presented as a constant distraction to wedding planning, and his shirking of mature duties for drinking also hardly helped viewers associate more pleasantly with Bam. This was more so due to how he would remain with the same attitude now entering his 30s. But little could anyone anticipate how bad it would get. And not just for Bam.
You know what you're getting into? You want from the house?
Give me a band, balloon, get a balloon, balloon, who is balloon? Oh my god, that was rolling.
During a 3-day-long drug bender and being tormented by hallucinations of spirits and other entities roaming his house, Steve-O had the serious intent of ending his life. But these meandering spirits, at the moment that thought crossed Steve-O's mind, formed around him. What he found himself in was an intervention unlike any other he's been in, and with their guidance and support, it was at this moment that he entered into his final rehab. Novak, however, was still all the crazy of Steve-O. On Viva La Bam, he would willingly do stunts, with the benefit of success of the stunts was that in itself, the benefit of failing a stunt and getting injured was going to the hospital and getting pills for the pain.
What's the worst that could happen?
Free pain pills from the hospital.
In 2008, on Howard Stern, for less than $300, he licked the so-called gooch of a host. The fact more staggering when applied to what he was doing on the streets off camera. This alleged former millionaire was living in a bug-infested garage, stealing furniture and whatever he could sell, including his body, typically to other men, to get his next hit. That's when he got clean, but it really only carried the perception of it. His story of getting quote-unquote clean was written in a book titled Dream Seller, and even a mini documentary where he conveys the horrid life he was living and the things he regretted. The best part is, he was visibly still on drugs during the production of it, and when his book came out, he actually signed a few copies and sold them to a bookstore to get money for more drugs. When it comes to addicts, there are never enough layers of deception to peel back. As for Bam, that was a separation between his developing addictions compared to the matured ones of Novak was his wealth and fame.
Stay the fuck off drugs, kids, man, because I fucked up so bad.
Bam's replacement friends in reality encouraged a reckless and damaging life, but in their illusion, Bam's issues seemed normal. In fact, he was doing better than many of these addicts that were leeching off him. That's probably what led to Minhags.
I was trying so hard to bring order from this chaos that was that movie Minhags, that when I would try and actually keep us on script, Bam would freak out on me and say, "You're fucking fired." I'm like, "Bam, you can't fire me. I'm not getting paid. What are you doing? Like, please, we have an obligation to get this film done." And he would shoot scenes that didn't make any sense. He would just make scenes up. And you got to understand, that film was very expensive to make. It cost Bam $600,000.
Need to feel productive.
Yes, he just needed to feel like he was doing something. And that film was surrounded by, again, I'm not going to mention names, but leeches and fucking parasites who were sucking him dry full of money.
Minhags was another flop, like Bam's 2003's Haggard, where the scripted nature of the movie brought out the weakness of its actors that were enjoyed purely for their unscripted stunts. And there is little surprise that rumors were spreading of hospitalization from so much drinking. If Bam was sober, he might have stopped development. If Bam was sober, he would have turned down the idea the moment he heard of it. If Bam was sober, he wouldn't have gotten an intervention, and through the convincement of friend Ryan Dunn, who was previously in rehab, Bam went to his first one in 2009. Or rather, first of many. Around this time, Jackass 3D was in production, and the crew were scouring YouTube for ideas. And when it was actually being filmed, the set was a much different place. Knxoville was more serious about the production and avoided hard substances. Steve-O stayed in his hotel room when the crew would hit the bar, and though Novak was still the same, the group was sobering up as a whole. As for the box office, this was the most successful Jackass by far, earning double that of Jackass 2. A success that was celebrated by the Jackass crew and their largest project yet, followed by its biggest tragedy.
I've never lost anybody that I care about. It's my best friend.
On June 20th, 2011, news of Ryan Dunn's passing spread throughout the US. None from the Jackass crew were taking it as hard as Bam Margera, befriending Ryan long before CKY, and was one of the few friends that was able to both bear him and stay by his side throughout it all. This was his first in a series of losses. In 2012, he got divorced and later revealed why.
But when you get married and all of a sudden it's like, all right, time to grow up and stop drinking and stuff. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? I did not sign up for this. I'm like, what is your typical perfect day? She's like, to have a picnic with you, go to the library, and then go plant shopping. And then I'm like, where's the fun part at?
He was also supposed to appear in a movie but didn't even show up, which got him blacklisted in Hollywood. At that point, demand for Margera had faded severely.
So he missed being in the movie, and Hollywood, when you...
They like blacklisted immediately.
Yes, blacklisted. Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. When you fuck over a union crew, word travels like lightning in that community. So now no one's inviting him to be part of their movie anymore. Someone who was just a few years prior supposed to be the top, the number one star in America, now can't even get in a movie.
Agents and others were detaching themselves, and Bam's agoraphobia was paralyzing him. The skating he was so proud of in the mid-2000s was something he lost touch with because of his busy schedule and countless eyes on his deteriorating talent. With his alcoholism destroying his body and his insecurity about his weight gain, he had convinced himself the only way he could be happy was not by accepting himself as a stocky adult he is, but a return to his slim skater that he once was. Unsure if it was the ability that would bring him happiness or the positivity and acceptance that he associates with it. In 2014, he had one last television show he had any control over, known as Bam's Badass Game Show, that aired for 6 episodes on TBS, that had contestants do mild stunts for mediocre prizes, hosted by a visibly intoxicated Bam. The show's budget was that of a higher-end YouTube video, yet the critics reviewed it as a flop of a television series it was.
The reviews of that, I remember I read one review and it said, it looks like Bam can't can't wait for filming to stop so we can continue drinking and drugging. And I was like, holy fucking shit. If that ain't the sad truth.
Additionally, even though Bam had more free time to skate, the bone spurs on his feet are something he long ignored, as the pain they caused were only present when landing a trick on a skateboard, which was his excuse for not skating. These blows kept coming, as Bam's uncle Don Vito passed away. The public, watching his decay with a series of photos from the S-Offenders Registry, made it that much more unpleasant. And this year, 2015, Bam's druggy friend that stuck with him throughout it all entered his final rehab center while Bam was leaving his second one. Bam's public image was now what his private one was in 2007, as he was more and more recognized for the alcoholic he was, fitting into the category of celebrity that still had value if placed in an improvement show. Like 2016's Family Therapy with Dr. Jin, that's level of success was clear by the single season it ran. Ratings aside, this was the public's first look at what Bam Margera had become. It was beneficial in the sense that Bam could stop hiding his addiction and accept improvement was not just skating or slimming. It was recovery. It was survival. After the show, Bam moved to Estonia, and while visiting Europe did have a shaky start with news covering a drunken freakout in Helsinki. Pictured also with his new wife, Nicole or Nikki, married as of 2013. But that was the extent of bad press. He started getting into painting, started working on developing 3D printed merchandise, and at some point he got surgery on his feet and moved to Barcelona where he was drinking less. This meant he was losing weight, and his legs were no longer constantly dehydrated to the point that they were dry rubber bands. Everything was working towards a healthy Bam that was also relearning how to skate, which came in perfect timing to his appearance on Epically Latered, a series revolving around skateboarders and those in its culture. It captured Bam's struggles, like his difficulty finishing a documentary on Ryan Dunn, where he sets himself the task of sifting through 11 terabytes of footage. The more daunting task turned out to be his inability to improve his life to the point he could find a conclusion fit for the ending of the film. The rest of the video was a bit lighter, as it shows Bam's improvement with his substance use, and it also announced that his girlfriend Nikki was pregnant. There was a brief point of harmony. The wildest of the Jackass crew, Steve-O, Brother Knxoville, and now Bam were sober and moving up. And then Bam moved back to the US. Phoenix Wolf Margera was born on December 23, 2017. On January 7, 2018, Brandon Cole Margera was arrested for driving under the influence. Bam never sobered up. He did better to fight his addiction and avoid arrests. But now, with his first DUI, the world knew Bam Margera was still the same alcoholic and entered into rehab the same month. He was allegedly clean for several months, and though he was living back in Westchester, he was not living in Castle Bam, largely due to the memories and influence it held over him. He was, however, living in a different house 6 miles away. His mother announced on Instagram that Castle Bam was being renovated to become an Airbnb, and hopefully ready by the summer. But as summer passed and fall began, it still wasn't ready. And then this happened.
I just arrived in Cartagena alone, and I took a taxi, a random one, from the airport to here, and I couldn't speak Spanish, they couldn't speak English, and they translated on their phone for me to read "empty your wallet" as they put a gun on their lap to show it to me. So I did, and I had $500. They let me go. That was weird. Welcome to Colombia.
Bam blames this robbery for his relapse. 4 months after, Bam at his castle announced an open invite party to help fundraise his skate park redesign. Fans, friends, whoever could attend, and 3,000 people showed up. The circus was back in action, and its ringleader took joy in the mayhem it created. The township didn't stop it because of the threat of the people spilling onto the town. Bam, however, found out the bonfire at the end of the night wasn't the peak of it. The party still went on, albeit more passively the following days, until the overstaying guests drank all his alcohol reserves. But Bam at this point wasn't just drinking or doing booger sugar. He got into Crystal M at some point, and now, at the start of 2019, was again in another rehab, leaving after only 10 days, which Brother Novak commented feeling sad on, which sparked this 8-page rant Bam posted about leaving rehab. And here, he both shows that Steve-O's and Brandon's sobriety inspired him, as he believed they would have been lifetime addicts. But equally, he shows an arrogance and unwillingness to accept he's the only addict remaining. Growing up, it was always easy for Bam to deflect his issues, but now Novak was clean.
me being a recovering alcoholic, like I have a really delusional way of thinking. And in my mind, what my disease told me is that the skateboarding world needs me. It cannot go on without me. I am an asset. When I was around and I was going on tour with him and I was everywhere that he went, it was very easy for Bam to deflect his issues because they would all point a finger and say, I'm not as bad as Novak.
So his argument now changed to, no, I'm not as bad as Novak was because he was a crazy drug addict, and Bam is just bored and drinks because of it. He then writes about how when everyone in rehab was exchanging their stories of how they became addicted, they all had similar themes of unsuccessful individuals that lives were ruined by their drug abuse, only to tell his grand story of success, that again he writes in a way that is meant to separate himself from these addicts, either not realizing it or denying the realization that regardless of achievement, the position of addiction is shared among them all. But Bam, in leaving, proved he is not like them. He is far worse. The following month, there were more slights at Novak. Then this video came out of him screaming and possibly hitting his manager off camera.
We came early because you said to come early. Where is everybody? There's 50 people sold tonight. Take me home! Alright, we'll go home. Now! Get my Range Rover and take me home, you fucking pussy! I'm leaving! Take me home now first. I'm going right now! I'm going! Goddamn, I don't know. I'm going! Motherfucker! Okay, alright. I'm going right now! What the fuck, man? Take me home.
This happened because Bam was on tour doing shows that were just stories guided by Bam's co-hosts with no crowd interaction, spliced in with opportunities to disparage Novak by telling less favorable private stories. But in March, he showed up early to one, saw that only a few people were there, flipped out, and requested to go home. Then came the ramblings against his quote-unquote pussy mom on Instagram, again citing his past achievements to disregard his current issues. The situation devolved in such a way that this post is better when it can be described as comprehensible and written in an actual language, because his illusions had progressed to psychosis. Now he made up his very own language and started posting the keys on his Instagram. His language even sharing one of the most prominent symbols of the Zodiac Killer's cipher. He was posting pictures of his diet that now involved alcohol, and the worst offender was that he now understood how black holes worked, and needed to get into contact with various faces of the science community. The state of Castle Bam nurtured this behavior because drug dealers, friends, and squatters, and sometimes all three in one dysfunctional package, were staying there coming and going as they pleased, and assisted Bam's decline. In this state, Bam, after leaving his fourth rehab, decided that only Dr. Phil could help him, with his main complaint being that his wife Nikki was too stubborn and his mother was too controlling of his environment.
Dr. Phil, I need your help in a big, big way. My family is in shambles. It's been worse than it's ever been, ever.
Then he went and left his fifth rehab, paying respect to Dr. Phil by getting his name tattooed on his neck. Afterwards, he was arrested and went back to the same rehab. Attending this, if not for his life, was now most important for his career because in 2020, Jackass 4 began production. There were many concerns within the group, like how safe is this now that the performers like Johnny Knoxville are approaching 50, and can Bam, as per his contract, remain clean throughout the entirety of it, requiring constant drug tests where he even filmed a cameo right before one of the tests. There was a pause in production because of COVID, and when they resumed, Bam was no longer part of it. He was talking about the stunts and he was part of the crew, so what happened? For the fans following Bam and his disoriented rants, they already knew about it and then some. As Bam states, his contract barred the use of drugs except for those that Paramount explicitly okayed. Bam has had an Adderall prescription but seemingly abused it in the past, in the sense that he would get additional pills. While in production, he took one and that was found in the drug test, then voided his contract and got him removed from the film. His reaction was a mix of listing all the drugs therapist and Paramount made him take, and how the side effects worsened his state.
So I got my balance back and I could skate again because I've been off all the antidepressant medication I've been on all of 2020. Wellbutrin, Lexapro, Bipropion, Lithium, Propanolol, Klonopin, Latuda, Restorol, Librium, Gabapentin, Abilify, Zoloft, Vivitrol, Zyprexa, Seroquel, and Contrave, which may cause hair loss, liver and kidney dysfunction, fatigue, dizziness, dry mouth, drowsiness, trouble sleeping, nausea, shortness of breath, muscle cramps, aches, weight gain, and suicidal tendencies.
He also now announces that he was diagnosed as bipolar, and he is at extreme odds with Knoxville, Jeff Tremaine, and Spike Jonze. He was even trying to crowdfund his own movie.
Fuck it. Send me fucking
How many followers do I have? If all you guys send me $100, dude, I can do this. I can fucking do it. Let me do it. The more money you send, the radder shit that can happen. Help me out. Throw me a bone for the love of Phoenix, the goddamn wolf.
He corrected this, saying even $1 is fine.
Don't go see their movie because I will make mine way fucking radder if you just Venmo me $1. Just $1. If you send $100, I'll remember your name and write it down in Strigoi. Fuck you, Knoxville. Fuck you, Spike. Fuck you, Jeff. You fuckers never cared about me, man. No, you fucking fuckers.
Strigoi is Bam's own language that he was still very much confident about. Additionally, Bam now doesn't even want to make his own Jackass spin-off, both because of the money and because he doesn't need to impress anyone, only his son.
You be the entrepreneur.
Need it and I don't want it.
You be the entrepreneur.
It's more just like, fuck you. I don't need to impress anybody anymore.
So,
I want to impress my son. I want to teach him how to fish.
Okay, there we go.
Not impressing anyone would come easy, as comments throughout the videos showing Bam's decline came from both sympathetic and cruel perspectives. Those of the latter were now referencing Bam's weight to that of his father's, which had always been his biggest insecurity, and now his own past cruelties against his father were now being used against him. The most popular reference is from Season 1, Episode 2 of Viva La Bam, where the town works together with the goal of not feeding Phil and popularized Don't Feed Phil. Now popular are Don't Feed Bam, or redesigned to have alliteration and be closer to Bam's actual addiction, Don't Booze Bam. But his frustrations were still aimed at his former coworkers. Now, he is sending death threats through text to Jeff Tremaine, who got a restraining order on him as a result. Along with these threats that read, "Sign your redacted death waiver," and "I'm gonna kill you and one mother redacted punch," he also sent pages scribbled in Bam language Strigoi. The lunacy and the creation of it, and the mindset Bam had to believe that Jeff could understand this esoteric in symbols, erratic in formatting, and extensive in amount inscribed was far more intimidating than whatever Bam could have comprehensively written. The shadows, one of which depicts a middle finger, is also a thoughtful touch. Bam was arguably the meanest and most controlling of the Jackass members, yet he was presented with the most opportunities. For him now to be someone that he would previously torment, and his persistent irresponsibility while having the intense responsibility of caring for a child is difficult to ignore. But he says he no longer cares about that public opinion because he wants to impress his son. This became ever more difficult when, during an argument with Nikki, he punched and broke a mirror in front of his son Phoenix. This already shaky relationship, pressed by Bam's public freakouts, influenced Nikki's decision to file and get custody of their son Phoenix. Though they were still living together, this was a very important decision done for the sake of Phoenix's safety and possibly a precaution for Phoenix not to be removed from Nikki by Child Protective Services due to Bam's actions. And Bam was practically at odds with everyone. By the end of 2021, he was on bad, but not on unrecoverable terms with all sides of his family. That much cannot be said about his relationship with some of the Jackass members because he was now suing for wrongful termination because it was the Adderall that got him axed, and though he was prescribed it, the suit also involves other aspects related to drugs and the drug tests they made him take, consisting of a breathalyzer at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. every day, urinalysis twice a week at random, hair follicles tested on a regular basis, and several pills every morning while on a FaceTime call with a doctor hired by Paramount. This suit, like most, stretches the truth and claims Margera was the harder Jackass and its creator at large, though Big Brother started their video series long before. But it was still a lot more than that and was settled out of court shortly after Jackass Forever's release. The film, shooting to make $250 million through the course of its lifetime, has had a rough start, with the box office about a third of that when released in February 2022. A cause could have been because of the massive snowstorm hitting the US during its week of release, or just general disinterest. Still a success as far as money goes, but a far cry from its goal. On its release, it brought new attention to Bam because he was not present in the film. Also gaining interest was Bam's guardianship. This is something that is done when a person is deemed unable to make sound decisions for themselves. As Bam was demonstrating with things like his threats towards Jeff Tremaine, it was also his poor hygiene, and at the core was his alcoholism. This happened a few months after he was initially kicked out of Jackass, but was getting larger attention because concerned fans were comparing the similarities of Britney Spears' conservatorship, which is when your finances are entirely out of your control, and believed Bam was in the same boat with coincidences involving his arrest and police body camera footage where the reports are exaggerated.
I'm an interventionist, and I was hired to get him to treatment.
The people that were marked as involved in this conspiracy theory was his guardian Lima Yevremovic and those that helped him get into rehab alongside his wife, his mother, and other parts of his family. Whether it was actually a conservatorship or just a guardianship matters little when you have the set of fans that oppose the control or lack thereof in terms of Bam's decisions. Lima, the one in charge of his guardianship, operated Aura, which is a startup that takes a rather bizarre approach at recovery, because alongside tossing addicts in recovery, they sell a form of exposure therapy placed in the gimmicky space of virtual reality. So a piece of this conspiracy theory is that they took Bam on to potentially have a success story behind them to prove that their method works. But all this did was bring attention to the guardianship itself and a former patient of Aura that died in rehab. There were other issues because Bam needed to complete 90 days of rehab, but kept getting both shuffled through rehabs that could be seen as lining pockets of those sometimes abusive Florida-based centers, and he cites two reasons in particular that are odd to him. Like in one situation, when he had 8 days remaining, he was cited as unhygienic, which is true because he wore the same sweatpants in rehab for 8 days straight, but received another 90 days for it at the last 5. Another situation he cites is when he flicked a lit cigarette into a bush and he began smoking. This rehab was located inside a forest, and with just 2 days remaining, he received another 90 days. Bam, without his phone for much of this time, had others in charge of his social media that often posted throwback pictures. And this conspiracy theory was hitting its peak mid to late 2022 as Bam was getting in and out of rehabs. There was a particular story of one of his escapes that got significant attention. It starts with this video of Bam, out of rehab, holding a speaker playing rap in a vehicle full of complete strangers. Then, Bam is on a couch in what looks to be a bedroom with similar music playing. The series of videos end with these strangers strung out next to a passed out Bam on a bed in the same room of the previous video. It was around this time that the YouTuber BJ Investigates was also fueling the flames of this theory, the situation around Bam, and others being forced under a conservatorship or guardianship to act as case studies for Lima's business. These videos are blamed for the pause and, to an extent, failure of Aura's business because on the website, they are both stating that investors are pulling away from Aura in direct connection to the conspiracy theories, and the business has paused operation and are suing BJ Investigates for libel. As for Bam, because of his improvements in this rehab, he was afforded freedoms and could be on Steve-O's podcast that he runs out of a vehicle that allows him to more easily tour the country, fitting that it be called Steve-O's Wild Ride. In this podcast, Steve-O attempts to dispel the rumors about Bam's situation that was now collectively under the Free Bam movement. Also in this podcast, it was revealed that Bam did have a second chance to get back in Jackass.
We can also let the record reflect that when you had been kicked out of the movie, that I was, oddly, surprisingly, campaigning to get you back in the movie. And we were so close, Bam. We had it to a point where you had...
I remember.
We were so close.
I know.
We had... I was writing scripts for you. Be tell him this, say this, and it's going to help get you back in the movie. And we got you to a point where you had a Zoom call with Johnny Knoxville, Spike Jones, Jeff Tremaine, and that was specifically the call where they were going to make the decision. You were all but back in, and you got loaded and missed the fucking call.
Everything meant for a reason, and I'm much better off not being in it. I'm happy to not be in it.
It looked like Bam was doing better, and maybe this time it was it. The most prominent addicts in his life have turned their lives around, and not just Steve-O or Novak, who was working to get other addicts clean. Also Villavallo, who Bam often cites as his harder introduction to alcohol. More important was Bam's new commitment to stay dry to recover the lost time with his son that he misses dearly.
Worst part was, I had to go a year without seeing Phoenix, and the age of 4 is such a fun age, and I missed it all, and I don't want to spend any time wasting time at any bars or anything anymore.
The following month, images of Bam at another bar surfaced again on social media. Then, 3 months later on December 8th, 2022, Bam Margera was pronounced dead. After contracting COVID, Bam suffered 4 seizures, bit his tongue, swallowed blood, contracted pneumonia, then suffered his 5th and final seizure at a hospital. The news was immediate. A former drug addict on a shaky path to recovery had died. And then, corrections were made. Bam, luckier than most, was brought back, intubated, and now after 8 days in the hospital regained consciousness. There were now second chances all around, and for a while now, instead of being in rehab and in control partially of his own recovery, his guardianship was over, and Bam was working with a shaman, exercising constantly and avoiding taking those pills that side effects were making Bam fatter, balder, and slower, which was everything he hated. The reward for this came in multiple ways. The most important was Bam was getting a chance to see his son Phoenix again. A powerful moment that was going to happen at the end of Steve-O's and now Bam's comedy tour across the US. And at the last show, Bam was reunited with Phoenix and had achieved his goal of staying sober. Now, Bam without a goal, the morning of the following day was on Instagram calling Johnny Knoxville a poser and Jeff Tremaine greedy. Normally when Bam is this aggressive, he is drunk, and according to Steve-O's comment that he deleted 2 minutes after posting, he very much was. This comment reads, quote, Bam, last night you had your 5-year-old son with you on stage at my show, and you were blessed with a chance to spend another day or 2 with him. Then, as soon as you left my show, you stayed up all night getting loaded enough to think it was a good idea to post more vile nonsense like this. I hope you understand how awful that is. You say you want to have a relationship with your son, but your actions guarantee the exact opposite will happen. I brought you on tour with me in hopes that I could get you to see what's possible for you if you choose to recover. I've tried everything I can, but I can't force you to get honest and do the work of recovery. I wish you could know how much I've hated feeling braced for news of your death, but you're making it clear that I have no other choice. You're dying, brother, and it sucks I can't do anything to save you." Unquote. It could have been this event that finally had Nikki file for legal separation, and then a month afterwards, this video of Bam, Phoenix, and Nikki in a Thai restaurant surfaced.
Wrong. It's wrong. Phoenix has his own mind. I want to see Daddy now. Well, Phoenix, maybe we should be fighting. No, but I want to see Daddy now. You're making up his own mind. Let him have his own mind. Let him have his own mind. I want to see Daddy now. No, Phoenix, you're going to be 5 days. Why you make me wait fucking 5 days? You fucking fuck.
Two things are happening that are closely related to the other. First is through Bam screaming and acting out in such a depraved way in front of his 5-year-old son. This causes a deep lack of sympathy for Bam because of the potential trauma he is inflicting on his child. Supporting Bam in the Free Bam movement seemed more difficult, and though he had been free for 3 months now, there were still those latching onto and being supportive of Bam regardless of his worsening state. The other thing that is happening is that his family, friends, Jackass members were distancing themselves from Bam. He was being denied further access to his social medias in the mass attempt to avoid him further tarnishing his image. Because if he does get clean, not only will his previous post or his promoting of his own language be what he will have to fight to not be remembered for, it will be his inebriated tantrums that by April were very much physical. On April 23rd, where state police arrived to Castle Bam following a domestic disturbance where Bam's brother, Jess Margera, told the police that Bam Margera pounded on and kicked his locked door bedroom that morning, and punched him in the eye, nose, and ear during a later confrontation in the kitchen where Bam was urinating in the sink. After the fight, Jess claims that Bam threatened Jess's and everyone else's life in the household. That includes his father and 2 unidentified women. Bam also left behind a note that reads, quote, "If you even fucking think of calling the police on me, I will officially fuck you up." Unquote. Jess then calls the cops to where Bam had already fled to the woods. The following day, a warrant was issued for Bam's arrest and turned himself in on the 27th. He faces various charges and was released on bail. Things are not looking good for Bam or those who supported him like BJ Investigates, that was now releasing podcasts she had done with Bam in person prior to the fight with his brother. In these, Bam looks intoxicated, and even BJ provides the information that Bam was drinking out of a cup that one of his associates produced. In the second Bam podcast, Bam is taking shots from a shot glass, where in both of these, his intoxicated state largely detracts from the conspiracy theory surrounding his former guardianship. It also brings pushback for both interviewing and posting these when Bam is clearly in an intoxicated state, talking lightly about the conspiracy and more ranting on the things that frustrate him, again challenging Knoxville to a fight.
You
fought Butterbean, Knoxville. Butterbean. He's like a champion. You were brave enough to do that. Get into a ring with me without boxing gloves on, because you know I'm going to f you up. Pussy.
Bam also blames Knoxville for damaging his feet, which he calls his money makers, because back in the Viva La Bam days during a prank war, Knoxville's prank ended with Bam stepping on tacks, and that's what he blames as a source of those bone spurs. Overall, these episodes are lackluster, but interesting in that Bam claims without evidence that he is a scientist, a geologist, has the Guinness Book of World Records title for the most shuffled person in the Florida Shuffle, admits to wearing the same sweatpants for 23 days, and calls himself a professional drinker.
No, I'm a professional drinker. I know exactly. I know the method of drinking. If you're one of the idiots who's like, of some frat boy, like, yo, we're going out to the club tonight, we're gonna bar hop, we're gonna do shot. Then you're gonna get all Larry the fuck up, and you're gonna do something dumb, you're gonna piss on the windshield, get banned for life, and then you never get to go to the Peter Pit again.
On BJ's channel, there are many comments of support of both her and Bam. The like to dislike ratios on these videos, however, hint at a greater opposition. Other areas outside of her channel that have similar interest in Bam, like the Let's Talk Bam subreddit, are a source of this opposition. Not so much towards the past Guardianship and Lima, but towards BJ and her decision to both interview and upload videos of an intoxicated Bam, and in how, to them, she is milking Bam's story, though less severe, people are referencing these actions to Lima's. The Free Bam movement is allegedly also responsible for the constant harassment of the Margera family, where conspiracy theories like this also inspire greater involvement from unhinged and quote-unquote truth-seeking individuals. As told through Jess Margera's Instagram story, where he provides the information that the misinformation around Bam is bringing a Titanic-sized shitstorm and tension to a situation that already has too much of both. Jess also alleges that Bam, prior to the attack, was hallucinating after being up for several days on M. This claim was countered by an image of Bam's visit to an urgent care with paperwork that Bam claims shows he's clean, and thus wants to sue his brother for defamation and kick him out of Castle Bam. There's also some circumstantial evidence that later surfaced of Bam's fingers, specifically his thumbed, scabbed, are deemed M fingers. Even Steve-O hints at Bam's potential addiction. More importantly is that he hopes he ends up in jail to finally detox and get clean.
Sitting in jail is the only place where everybody can have a reasonable expectation that he's safe. And if, with all of these people saying that he's smoking meth, I've always been pretty careful not to make that allegation myself, even though...
Steve-O, arguably now the closest of Bam's remaining Jackass friends, hopes he ends up in jail. Bam, however, had different plans, influenced by his jumbled mental state.
I'm gonna smoke crack with the bums down at the boardwalk until I'm dead unless you deliver me fucking Phoenix. Get to work, Nikki, or anybody that wants to help. I want Phoenix.
This video sparked another resurgence of interest in Bam, with commenters picking apart his not so well thought out strategy. A strategy that could only be developed by someone with a serious problem. Some see comedy in the absurd, others see opportunity, and former basketball player Lamar Odom saw potential, as he invited and had Bam detox at one of his rehab facilities. That lasted for about 2 weeks, as Bam left rehab on June 24th, with an intent to go to Las Vegas. For that reason, and Bam's history, it is clear that Bam is the king. Somehow, through the course of 20 years, Brandon Cole Margera, the most successful Jackass star that towered his drug-addicted co-stars and friends, has seen the world change around him. Inversed are the relationships and lifestyles now. Unable to cope with his current situation, he lives in his delusions, and will likely die with them. Then again, that much was said of Steve-O and Brother Knxoville, that turned their lives around at their lowest points. And Bam, detached from nearly everyone, is likely at this point, where the only company he keeps is a bottle. In this state, Bam will have difficulty deflecting his issues and blaming others for causing them. He may very well now see the contrast present to everyone but him, of an influential skateboarder that inspired culture turned alcoholic that believes he understands black holes, when he doesn't understand his status as a former star that has been dragging his family and, to an extent, his son down with him.
You know what, Bam?
What?
And there's rich people with kids that are assholes. And I'd rather be a poor guy with a kid that's nice. How about that? Let's go back to the old days.
Well, let's go then and quit bitching about it.
It's up to you to go back to the old days.
I'm going to be an asshole forever.
Well then,
I make money off of it.
I don't know what the fuck I did wrong, because I thought I raised you perfect.
What do you mean? You let me skip school and shit and go skating?
To get your goals, your dream, and I thought I was doing the right thing. Apparently it wasn't.
Well, I like it, but if you don't like it, then fuck.
Well, you read about all the rich people, their kids do drugs and kill themselves. I'd rather have a kid that was with me and this and that than any fucking money. So, take that.